Okay, well, last Sunday we've learned that Simon Peter was called for a greater purpose. And the second apostle that I'm trying to figure out, something out of his life, like his life screamed so to me that if you want to be the first, think twice. For the people who they love leadership and they want to be number one in church or outside the church, in their family or whatever, think twice. And his life is a good example. You will understand more afterwards, okay? But this is the main idea I'm trying to develop here. Why? Because James was one who thought that he deserved to be the first. And if you think you deserve to be the first, then think twice. Think twice. Why? Well, at least in his situation, in his case, because of his age. There is just one record when James is presented alone, but as usual, he is presented always alongside his brother, John the Apostle. He was even known better than James, but every time when the two brothers were named together, James is the first, always. Which gives us the idea that he was older. Probably he was the firstborn of Zebedee and Salome. And that's why the one who will inherit 2/3 of the inheritance of the family. The protocol of that day was that the older was the one doing the talking. So every time when we see them together, most probably James was the one talking. And you will see why this is important. And he thought he deserved to be the first because of his financial and social situation, status. James and John's family was more preeminent than Peter and Andrew. Remember, Peter was from where? Bethsaida. And he moved to Capernaum. So he was from a little village. He moved in Capernaum. But John and James, they were from Capernaum. And their father, Zebedee, was a prosperous businessman with a thriving fishing business. Comparing their fishing business, Zebedee's was able to hire men and buy more fishing boats. If you read, you can read this in Mark 1:20. And there are some evidences in the early church writings that these evidences show that Zebedee was a Levite. And he had strong connection with the high priest himself. James, being as the firstborn of his family with high reputation, probably thought he was entitled to deserve to be the first among the apostles. This is probably the reason why there are so many arguments and conflicts among. Jesus took alongside 3 of his disciples. Always Peter was the first, James was the second, and John was the third. This is his inner circle. Just one time Andrew was with them, but otherwise there were always just 3 in Jesus. And if you remember when Jesus resurrected Jairus' daughter, he gave them the privilege to see his power. All 3, but James was there. When Jesus transfigured and he was on the mountain with them, he offered them the privilege to see his glory, not just his power, and James was there. When Jesus told them privately about the Great Tribulation, if you remember, the 70th week of Daniel 9, and this is in Mark 13, he shared them the privilege to see his sovereignty. When he told them, and in this situation there were the 4. Andrew was with them too. In the Garden of Gethsemane, he took just 3 of them, and James was one of them. And Jesus showed them the agony of the Redeemer. So James knew Jesus Christ very close and very well. All these events for sure strengthened his faith, and they modeled his passion for truth even better. James was a man of a passionate man. His passion was for truth and justice. He was full of zeal, fervent, and he was also ambitious. All three, these qualities make him to be sometimes harsh, inflexible, and insensitive, oftentimes. And sometimes it was a time when he was ready to even to, at the point to take lives if it's necessary. Now, for him was nothing. Yeah, let's kill them. When he met Jesus, he was going down on this road. His life was going down. If he would not meet Jesus, he would be a terrorist, a spiritual terrorist. But Jesus changed his life. He was no longer the same. Maybe he thought, I'm the one who deserves to be the first because my character. James and John received, because of this, they received a nickname from Jesus. Apparently, Jesus loved to give nicknames. Did you see this part, this face of Jesus, anytime, like reading the Gospel? Oh, Jesus loved to give nicknames to people around. Their nickname was the Sons of Thunder. You remember, he nicknamed Simon. He nicknamed him Peter. Like, this is how I want you to in the future. But for these two guys, Jesus was kind of he was trying or to make fun of them or to emphasize something bad in their life. The thunder is the sound caused by lightning, as you know, and depending on the distance and the nature of the lightning, maybe you hear like a sharp and loud crack, or you hear like a low rumble. And so you have this, you know what I'm talking, right? James was more like the sharp one. He was near you, and the lightning was close to you always, with him in your small group. And the reason Jesus gave them this nickname is because they asked the destruction of an entire village of Samaritans. Imagine, Jesus' disciples, two of them, they said, Lord, give us the power to bring fire from heaven and just kill them. And probably James was the one saying this. Why? Because they didn't let Jesus lodge in their village. They said, we don't want you here. So, oh, you don't want us here? Let's kill them. This was, when zeal goes hand in hand with insensitivity, the result is cruelty. And he was a cruel man. So this, beware. When you meet James, he's very dangerous. Are there people like this in church? What do you think? There are people like this in our church or in churches around. Oh yeah. When we look at his character, maybe you think, oh, I also have names in my mind. I know, this person or this person. But the problem is, are you a son of thunder? Are you a daughter of thunder? You are just a sound now, but the next step you will take life with, cruelty. So beware. James was also relative to Jesus. He was Jesus' cousin. So he was close to Jesus, not just all of this, but because he was his cousin. The information is not explicit in the gospel, but implicit. And here are some texts about this. In Matthew 27, it says that there were also many women there looking on the distance who had followed Jesus from Galilee, ministering to him. Among them, listen the name, very careful, Mary Magdalene, and Mary the mother of James and Joseph. This is another James, okay. And the mother of sons of Zebedee. And then you have the text in Mark 15:40. There were also women looking on from a distance, among whom were Mary Magdalene again, Mary the mother of James the younger, so this is the other one, and Salome. When Sabbath was past, Mary Magdalene and Mary the mother of James and Salome bought spices so they might go and anoint him. And this is very important, John 19:25. But standing by the cross of Jesus were his mother, Mary, and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. Always you'll find the same persons. Mary Magdalene is with the same name here, but Mary, the mother of James, is James and Joseph, and Joseph, and then James, and then the wife of Clopas. But here you have Salome and the mother of sons of Zebedee and his mother's sister. So it's not explicit, but it is implicit that Salome was Mary's sister. That makes James his cousin. James is preeminent because of his age, because of his status, and because of he was part of the inner circle, because of his character, because of he was relative. He was the most entitled to be the first among the apostles, but he was the second. He was not the first. I think this is the beauty of being a disciple. You are not what you deserve to be. You are what Jesus needs you to be. Should I say it again? Let me say it again. You are not what you deserve to be, but you are what Jesus needs you to be. And Jesus needs him to be the second, after Peter. And the question is, are you the disciple that Jesus needs you to be? Or maybe you think you should not be the second, number two, but number one among the other disciples in church. Think twice. Maybe you don't know what you ask. Oftentimes we experience conflicts in church because of the people like James. And when I was reading about James, I was thinking, yeah, we have problems in churches because of these kind of a people. Because sometimes they believe they deserve to be number one, but never number two among the other disciples. And sometimes because they deserve to be number one because they are the sons of thunder. They are the most just and with the truth, and they deserve to be there, but they don't think of this. Is what I want to be in church or what Jesus wants me to be here? So my take in this is, be the one Jesus wants you to be. Okay? Be the one that Jesus wants you to be, not who you think you deserve to be. Now, I start from this, think twice if you want to be the first. Because James, he was the one who, not just he thought he deserves to be the first, but he asks to be the first. So it's not like just in his mind, but also on his lips. He asked for it. When you read Matthew 20, 22, 24, there is interesting, he's using his mother to ask to be the first. How lame. I mean, you are Jesus' cousin and you don't, dare to tell him, Lord, I want to be the first. He used his mother. And let me read. Then the mother of the sons of Zebedee came up to him with her sons, and kneeling before him, she asked him for something. And he said to her, what do you want? She said to him, say that these two sons of mine are to sit, one at your right hand and one at your left, in your kingdom. And Jesus answered, you do not know what you are asking. are you able to drink the cup that I am to drink? And they said, we are able. They who? James and John. So actually that was their request. Their mother came with the request, but Jesus knew it's their request. So Jesus is asking them, not her. Like, tell them they are ready to do it. No, he asked them directly, are you ready? Are you able? And they said, yes, we are. I mean, they were very proud of themselves. He said to them, you will drink my cup. This is a promise. You will drink my cup. But to sit at my right hand and my left is not mine to grant. But it is for those for whom it has been prepared by my Father. Remember who gave these 12 disciples to Jesus? Who selected the disciples for Jesus? God the Father. Remember John chapter 6? He is receiving them, but the Father gave him these disciples. So he said, if you want the right and the hand, the Father is the one who will give me this, not you. And when the 10 heard, they were indignant at the two brothers. James was an ambitious person. Jesus said to the apostle that they will have their own throne in heaven. So this is like Matthew 20, but if you read a little bit like Matthew 19, in Matthew 19, Jesus said, verse 28, Jesus said to them, truly I say to you, in the new world, when the Son of Man will sit on his glorious throne, you who have followed me will also sit. And interesting, it's not you like everybody, but you who follow me also sit on 12 thrones. So James thought, oh, if in the new world we will sit in the 12 thrones, I know I will sit on a throne, but which one? The most closest to Jesus' proximity, okay? So it makes sense who made this request. I want to be right there. And Jesus said, you will be, but not about the throne, but you will drink my cup. James was thinking, good, I want to know which one is mine. So he asked his mother, hey mother, his mother was, a wealthy person. She was always with the group. By the way, how about this, to be in the same church with your mother and ministering with your mother alongside? Like Robert said, no, I'm not coming to your church because of just giving this passage, okay? They were together in the same ministry, and Jesus loved it. Jesus loved it to do ministry with his cousins. Bring your cousins to the Lord and to church and your family, and this is the way you do church. At least this is Jesus' way to do church. So, Rodolfo, you're on the right track here. So James and John said, yes, we can do this. We can drink the cup. But in the new world, we want the number one seats. I don't know if you are like James and you believe that you deserve something and you ask for it. Well, if you think twice, if you ask for it, maybe you will receive it. But you don't know what you are asking for. And number 2 here is using the scriptures. I refer to Luke 9, 51, 56. When the days drew near for him to be taken up, he set his face to go to Jerusalem, and he sent messengers ahead of him who went and entered the village of the Samaritans to make preparation for him. But the people did not receive him because his face was set toward Jerusalem. And when his disciples James and John saw it, they said, Lord, do you want us to tell fire to come down from heaven and consume them? But he turned and rebuked them. This is what Jesus does. He rebuked them. And interesting, he went to another village. It was so easy. Why should I kill all of them? let's try another village. But they were so like, the sons of thunder. The Samaritans are a mixture of poor Jews and pagans brought by the Assyrians after Israel was taken in captivity. So their religion was more like truth and paganism together. They're a weird mixture. And when James and John saw how they treated Jesus, they asked permission to command fire from heaven. They knew they can't do this. So they asked Jesus, Jesus, should we? Give us the permission and we will. And the fire will consume them all. This situation refers to what happened in the Old Testament when Elijah commanded fire from heaven to consume the army sent by the king. There were two groups of 51 soldiers each who died until the third group came, and the leader kneeled before Elijah and he said, Lord, sir, would you like to follow us, please? Just read 2 Kings chapter 1, the first part. This is the same territory. So in their mind, James thought, oh, the scripture gave me permission because God did it first, he will do it again. God brought fire down and consumed 102 people. And you know what? It's more than 102 people in this village, but let's do it again. But Jesus said, you don't understand. I'm not Elijah. I'm not come to kill people. I have come to save them. To save them. Jesus' answer was that his mission is not to consume people with fire, but to save them from the fire. It is good to defend God's honor, but it's better to save people from the eternal fire than that will come. I strongly believe that when Philip preached the gospel in Samaria, probably people from this village, they were saved. And I hope James was glad that they didn't kill everybody in that second. At least you give them the second chance in, salvation. So, think twice if you want to be the first. Sometimes you want to be the first because you think you deserve to be the first, like James, or you ask to be the first. And he was finally the first. You know that James was the first martyr of the church? Not Stephen. In our mind, we think Stephen was the first. This is wrong. It's not accurate. He said, yes, I can. I can drink. And he said, you will. And actually that happened. If you read Acts 12, the first 3 verses, it says that about that time Herod the king laid violent hands on some who belonged to the church. He killed James, the brother of John, with the sword. And when he saw that it pleased the Jews, he proceeded to arrest Peter also. This was during the days of unleavened bread. Herod Antipas is the one who beheaded John the Baptist. Just a little bit of context, okay? Maybe you don't know who this Herod was. Was not the Herod that tried to he killed the babies in Bethlehem. He's related to him, but he's not the one. This one is Herod Antipas. He beheaded John the Baptist. He is the one who asked Jesus for a miracle. Remember when Pilate sent to him and he said, I want to see a miracle, and Jesus did nothing for him. And then this is the one who killed James, the apostle, beheading him. I mean, he killed him with a sword. That means he beheaded him. And then, after this, if you read more, in the same chapter, it says that he went to Caesarea, and there, some people from Tyre and Sidon, they came and they said, oh, this is you talk like God. And they worship him. And he received the worship. And in that second, God struck him, actually an angel struck him. And worms ate him from inside out. And he died in severe pains. So this is the guy who killed James. Now we understand why Jesus chose Peter to be the first among the apostles. I don't know if you got it, but I got it. Why? Because Peter survived James. James was the one killed. Jesus knew. So that's why when he chose the first among the apostles, he didn't choose James. Maybe he deserved it, but he didn't choose him. He chose Peter. He was not from, like a wealthy family and everything that James had, but Peter was the one that started the church, the early church. Remember the Pentecost. So, Eusebius of Caesarea, this is like 240 AD. He's the historian of the early church. He writes in his second book of history, the church history, that Clement of Alexandria, he lived 150 to 215 AD, he said about Clement, and concerning this James, Clement, in the seventh book of Outlines, this is the name of his book, relates a story which is worthy of mention, telling it as he received it from those who had lived before him. So it's like oral tradition. He says that the one who led James to the judgment seat, when he saw him bearing his testimony, was moved and confessed that he was himself also a Christian. He became a Christian on the spot just because of James' testimony. They were both, therefore, he said, led away together, and on the way he begged James to forgive him. And he, after considering a little, said, "Peace be with you," and kissed him. And thus they were both beheaded at the same time. What a story. Remember who was James in the beginning? He met Jesus, and now he kissed the one who led him to the trial. And he became a Christian because of his testimony. And then they were both beheaded because they were Christians. Well, think twice if you want to be the first, okay? Think twice. Another conclusion from his life, I think age is not always the indicator for why God chooses someone to be the first. If you are, number three, if you are a successful business person, that does not qualify you to be a leader in the church. At least this is not how we should look for leaders in the church, because you are a businessman and you are successful. Well, maybe there are some things there, but not the first one. Sometimes it's good to use nicknames to rebuke some people, or to open their eyes for their faults, probably, to some fault they have. Another conclusion: follow Jesus' example to work closely with your relatives for the kingdom of God. But don't let this blind you. Bring your cousins to the Lord and help them to change. This is what Jesus did. Something else I was thinking, throughout this topic, when you ask somebody something, do you really know what you ask? James' request was approved. He said, "I want to be the first among the apostles." And Jesus said, "You will." "I want to drink the cup." "You will." And he was the one first killed among them. By the way, he's the only apostle that the gospel records his death. We don't know about the others. About the others we know from the church history, but from the gospel we know just about James. He was the first martyr of the church. When you use the scripture as your authority, make sure you know your dispensation. Don't interpret scripture blindfolded. Too many people believe today that Christianity exists to judge and condemn people, and this is false. We as Christians, We exist to save people. But they don't know about the condemnation. And that's why sometimes when we talk about the condemnation, they shut and they don't think further. But we tell them about the condemnation in order to understand the salvation. So I've heard so many, and some of my students say the same thing. Christianity is so judgmental. Christians are so judgmental. And no, we are not. And I believe, I don't know, maybe there are some. But if you are a disciple of Christ and you are a follower of Christ, you are here to save people from eternal damnation. May the Lord bless you and help you to do this. And as Alma said, I pray for courage. Pray for courage. People around you need salvation. And they need to follow Jesus and to be saved.